Well, good morning. This video devotion covers John's Gospel, the 18th chapter, verses 19 to 27. I'm recording this to put onto Facebook on Wednesday, January 12th of 2022, but it is here on YouTube for as long as YouTube will be around. So please notice that I do have a long list of videos that I have put together. We're gaining on the number 1000 video. I think we're about 940 or something right now. But here, this video will be under the playlist for John's Gospel. There are various playlists for different books of the Bible, and also the sermons are on here as well. So if you like this, please subscribe and like the video, maybe comment, please. But let's go ahead and take a look at the 18th chapter of John's Gospel, verses 19 to 27. And before I start, I want to apologize. In yesterday's video, the video that was covering John 18, 15 to 18, I think I mentioned that movement from Ananias' home to Caiaphas' home. Ananias was the past high priest. Caiaphas is the current high priest. Ananias is the father-in-law of Caiaphas. And it gets a little confused because they call them both the high priest. Well, Jesus is still in. Yesterday's he hadn't left for Caiaphas's yet, and today he will leave and go to Caiaphas's house at the end of this. I believe it's in verse 24. Ananias sends him away. So that clarity. My confusion, I apologize for that if I confused anyone. Unfortunately, they continue to give Ananias the title of high priest and don't identify which person they're talking about in a couple of places. So it gets a little confusing. We have to keep going, and when you're reading it in snippets, sometimes it gets a little bit mixed up. So with covering myself for that, let's go right ahead and look at 19 to 27. Then the high priest, Ananias, questioned Jesus about his disciples and about his teaching. Jesus answered, I have spoken openly to the world. I have always taught in synagogues and in the temple, where all the Jews come together. I have said nothing in secret. Why do you ask me? Ask those who heard what I said to them. They know what I said. When he had said this, one of the police standing nearby struck Jesus on the face, saying, Is that how you answer the high priest? Jesus answered, If I have spoken wrongly, testify to the wrong. But if I have spoken rightly, why do you strike me? Then Ananias sent him bound to Caiaphas the high priest. Now Simon Peter was standing and warming himself. They asked him, You are not also one of the disciples, are you? He denied it and said, I am not. One of the slaves of the high priest, a relative of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, asked, Did I not see you in the garden with him? Again Peter denied it, and at that moment the cock crowed. And remember, Jesus had said, You will deny me 3 times before the cock crows. So here the cock has crowed. Peter has had his third denial, and we'll come back to that. Again, he's in the courtyard at Ananias' home, and Ananias is questioning him. That's highly, what do I want to say? Not proper, improper, highly improper, because Ananias is not the high priest. He shouldn't be the one questioning him. They should have taken him to Caiaphas. He would be the head of the Sanhedrin, not Ananias. So the procedure seems to be a little bit askew here. At least is my understanding. I could be wrong. If someone knows better than that, please correct me. But my understanding, Ananias is out of line here. It does lead us to suspect that Ananias is actually the power, as I think I mentioned yesterday. He must be the power behind the throne. He is the true voice of the high priest. Caiaphas, his son-in-law, is kind of a puppet, so to say. It seems that those kind of leaders have been around forever. Leaders that are actually the one up front isn't necessarily the one that's actually got control. It would seem that Ananias, as the father-in-law, has control over his son-in-law. Later on, I believe it's Caiaphas' grandson that is the high priest when James is martyred in would be 63 A.D. So about 30 years past this. I believe it's Ananias' grandson that is the high priest at that point. He doesn't remain high priest for very long, because once the Romans get there, and after he's had ordered James martyred, he is deposed as high priest, and they put someone else in. But let that be what it may. So here you've got Jesus saying, "I've spoken openly," and he has. He's been mostly in synagogues, and he has come to the temple a few times, but he's been in synagogues preaching all around the region, hasn't he? And he hasn't been hiding. He has been teaching out in the wilderness, of course, a few times, but he has made a practice of going into the synagogues, and he's been in the temple. And so his point is that, hey, what I've been teaching. Ananias is familiar with one of the disciples, as we talked about yesterday's devotion. One of these disciples was known to the high priest, and that's how Peter and that disciple got into this courtyard where Jesus is at, being questioned. So what's up with that? You know this guy, and you surely have to know he's a disciple. And so why are you asking me about all this? You know the answers. What's the deal? And why are you doing this at night? Why did you arrest me at night? Why didn't you come and arrest me during broad daylight? Anytime I've been in the temple, you had plenty of time, plenty of places you could have come after him. But they didn't. They chose to arrest Jesus in the dark. Of course, malfeasance tends to like to do things in the dark. It doesn't want to do things in the open. Even if it comes into the open, the malfeasance has already been conducted, so to say. So they have arrested him here. Now Peter is there also. Again, he's in another. As they take him from Ananias to Caiaphas, which is where the holding cell, the pit that we were in when we were in Israel. That is where, after beating him, they held him in that pit until the next morning. Verse 28 tells us about when they leave there. But overnight, and John doesn't talk about it, but overnight they held Jesus in that pit. And while we were there, we did a reading of one of the Psalms, and I read that Psalm down in the pit, and that was a very poignant time. That was one of the times that, looking at those walls and realizing this is very likely where Jesus spent the last few hours of his earthly life alive, before the resurrection. It was very, very, very deep. Let's put it that way. A deep pit. But anyway, Peter is in in the second courtyard for the high priest, for Caiaphas' courtyard, and he's again warming himself, and then he gets asked again, and he denies it again. Once you've denied something, or you've betrayed, once you get on that, when you start betraying things, it becomes easier to betray things. It's like telling a little lie becomes easier to tell another lie, and before you know it, you've told a lot of big lies, and you've become further and further and further away from the truth. And so the metaphor here is that Peter's getting further and further and further away from the truth, further and further away from Christ. And he's getting colder and colder. He's having to stay by the fire because he's getting cold, because the warmth of the truth is farther and farther away. Let's not be like that. Let's not get ourselves so far away from Christ that we feel the chill of the world. Let's put it that way. How's that? So with that, I'm going to let you go for today. We'll pick up tomorrow with Jesus going to appear before Pilate. So please have a blessed day, and please, 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 as I always say, be a blessing to someone today. Tell them about Jesus. That'd be a great start. All right? God bless you all. See you later.